Hi, my name is Miss Dana, and I'm one of the garden teachers for Garden School Foundation. I'm here today at one of the schools in Carson. This is Annalee Elementary School's beautiful school garden. Today we are going to be making some arts and crafts.
The first craft is leaf rubbing, and you will need some crayons, paper, and leaves. When harvesting your leaves, pick leaves that look different to add to the design of your art project. And remember, always be gentle when harvesting plants. You can pause this video right now if you would like to go gather your materials. The first thing you need to do is peel the paper off of your crayons. You'll have to do this with each crayon that you want to use. Take your time. This is the hardest part of the craft, so don't fret. The next step is to fold your paper in half if you would like to make a greeting card. Then open the paper up again and place it flat on the table. Now you're going to select your first leaf and place it flat underneath your paper. This is what you don't want to do. We want to place our crayons flat so that they can roll back and forth. And we're going to press in one direction along the top edge of our leaves. You can see that the crayons pick up the imprint and the texture of the leaf. Peel your leaf off and move it to another place. Make sure you're careful when moving and placing the leaf, placing it nice and flat. Again, you can see I use the flat side of my crayon, pressing in one direction to get the outline of the leaf. Now I'm going to use a different leaf. And of course, you can feel free to change the color of your crayons or use all the same color. It's up to you. So here's my second leaf. This is a jasmine leaf, and the first leaf I did was a hibiscus leaf. So you can experiment with different shapes and leaf sizes. And of course, you can move them around on the paper to make the design that you would like. I always make sure that my leaf is in the right place before I start pressing the crayon to get the imprint of the leaf. Here's an example of how I used two different crayon colors on the same leaf. I added red in the center and yellow around the edges. You can really get pretty creative with this, layering your leaves throughout. This one I'm going to do some yellow and then add black over top the yellow to kind of accent the veins of the leaf. The last thing I'm going to do is go all the way around the edges with a little green to fill in the blank spaces. So you can see that the leaf is hanging off the edge of the paper, but that's okay because that will make sure that my leaf rubbing goes up flush against the sides of the paper. And there we go, all finished with our leaf rubbing card. Isn't it beautiful? Take a picture of yours and please share it with us.
So we just finished our first craft, our leaf rubbings. Good work. I hope you enjoyed that one. We even made this one into a card that we can share with someone that we love. The next craft we'll be doing is a nature loom.
The materials you will need are also pretty simple for this craft. You'll need 4 equal length sticks about 8 inches long. You'll also need a pair of scissors and some kind of string. It could be yarn, or maybe something you might have at home might be dental floss that you could try this with. You'll also need some natural materials to weave through your loom, things like long leaves or pieces of grasses or flowers and soft stems. You can pause this video right now if you would like to go gather your materials. Now that you have your materials ready for your nature loom, we can get started. You might need to adjust your sticks so that they're all about the same length. You can break them with your hands so that they're all the same length. You'll set them almost like a tic-tac-toe board, making like a square frame. And then you'll need to cut your string into 4 lengths that are about maybe a foot long, especially longer if you're new to tying knots. A longer piece of string makes tying easier. So I have 4 pieces of string that will be used for each of the corners of my loom. I start the tying by I put a string on the bottom of the table, then I put my sticks on top like an X, and I start wrapping the string around. And I'm going to take that string and I'm going to loop it around almost until I don't have enough string left to tie with. You want to make sure you have some string at the ends to tie your final knot. So once it's wrapped, you'll tie a double knot, if not a triple knot, to make sure that's nice and tight. Then again, so I put my string on the bottom and I'm going to put my sticks on top. And I'm going to fast forward this a little bit so that you don't have to watch every time. But again, you'll see I'm wrapping that string around and then I'm tying the knot. And you're going to do this 4 times until each corner is nicely attached and you have a nice square frame. And this is the start of your nature loom. Now that you have the frame of your nature loom, you're gonna weave your string through. So you'll take one end of your ball of yarn and you're gonna tie again a double knot to attach it to any side of the loom. I would tie it closer to one of your corners rather than in the middle. And then you can see I'm just wrapping it around, up and down and around and round in like a nice zigzag pattern. And then when I get finished, I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to cut off that string, always leaving enough to tie. And then you're going to tie a knot, maybe do one more if you can reach one more, and then tie this to one of those pieces that you already had wrapped around. And you want to make sure you want to keep this as tight as possible. You don't want your loom string to be too loose. So now I'm ready to start weaving. And weaving is a fun practice. You'll see I'm going to go under, over, under, over. So I go under one string and then over the next. Under one string and over the next. You're always going to be repeating that pattern. Under, over, under, over. And this may take some practice, but with time it'll become easier and easier. So see, I just wove in a nice, beautiful, long piece of grass. Oh, and I'm even going to cut off the end to kind of trim it so that it fits nicely in my loom. Now I'm going to try a flower. So since the last one I started under, over, this one I want to do over, under, and vice versa. So after this flower, I'm going to do under, over, and then after that, I'll switch and I'll do over, under. And this will create a nice, strong weave to your beautiful nature loom. So I think I'm almost done, but I'm going to add a dandelion flower and I think another piece of lemongrass. So even when you think you're done, see if you can weave a few more natural objects. Maybe find a feather and add a feather to your nature loom. You can get all sorts of creative with this project. Now I'm going to attach the handle to my nature loom. So it'll be like the handle of a painting or of a purse. So something that I can hang my nature loom with. So I'm going to attach that string on one side of my frame and do this to the top, whichever side you think looks more like the top to you. So I picked the side with the flowers on it because I thought then they could stand up nice and tall and straight. So I attached that on both sides and then I can hang that from a nail or the back of a chair or something like that to show it off.
So we just finished our second craft, a beautiful nature loom. I hope you enjoyed that one. The next thing we'll be making is a recycled planter to start seeds in.
Okay, so for our last craft, you will need some recycled containers like a milk carton or a cereal container. You could also use a tin can, a yogurt container. The sky's the limit. We go through so many recycled containers, and so this is a great way to take those containers and reuse them and repurpose them. You will also need some soil. You can find this in your yard or buy a bag at a nursery or hardware store. You'll also need some seeds to plant, some water to water those seeds in, and then a sharp object which we are going to use to poke a hole into the bottom of our container. And during that task, you may need to ask an adult for help. You can pause this video right now if you would like to go gather your materials. Okay, so if you have all your materials gathered, let's get started. The first thing we're going to do after we've washed out our containers, because it's good to wash our containers out, especially if there was milk in them, they can get kind of smelly. We need to make our holes, and our holes are important so that the water in our planters can drain, because we don't want our soil to get soggy and muddy, right? We want enough moisture, but we want that moisture to be able to move through and out of the pot. So you'll see I'm experimenting with a few different methods. I tried the scissors, I tried the screwdriver, and I had a sharp screw. This is a little sped up, and finally I decided that the screw was the best method for me. So you might have a different experience, and kids, please remember that this is a great time to ask an adult for help, because we really want to be safe when we're using sharp objects at home. So really take the time, go ask an adult or an older sibling to help you make these holes. So once you have your holes made in your container, it's time to add some soil. And I like to use my hands. You could use a spoon, or if you want to wear gloves, but I love getting dirt on my hands. It feels really good to touch the soil. So I'm going to fill my container up almost to the top. Not all the way to the top, but pretty close. We want to leave some room in case we want to add a little more soil once we've planted our seeds. Today we're going to be planting some tomato seeds. It's always important to read the seed packet, because there's so much great information on the backs of a seed packet that can tell us how a plant likes to grow, what spacing it needs, how much sun it needs, how long it takes to grow until we can harvest and eat it. So really take some time and read your seed packet and get to know your plants. So for my tomatoes, they're really tiny, tiny seeds, so I don't need to plant them too deep. If you plant a seed too deep, it won't have enough energy to push through the soil and reach the sunlight and reach the air above. So I'm going to make 2 little tiny holes, not very deep, remember? And I'm going to put 1 to 2 seeds in each hole. I'm planting two holes of seeds in each container just to give myself a better chance in case some of them don't germinate and aren't able to make it. Now I'm going to really gently, just lightly cover up my seeds with the soil that was in the container. Since the tomato seeds were so small, I didn't need to add any more soil to them. And now I'm going to water just a little bit, just a tiny bit. You don't want your planters to be too soggy and your seeds to be too wet, so just a little bit. After that, put a lid or plate underneath, water it every day, put it in a sunny spot, and watch your seedling grow.
So we just finished our last craft, our awesome recycled planters, keeping these things out of the landfill. And maybe we'll even get some tomatoes too. Thanks for joining me today, doing arts and crafts in our school garden in Carson. See you next time.